Let's look at the plight of women in South Africa now. Estimates from the quarterly labour force survey released by Statistics South Africa, Stats SA, shows that it seems to be tougher for unemployed women to find jobs than it is for unemployed men. Now, the survey data showed only 4.9% of unemployed women found jobs in Q4 of 2020, while 7.1% of men found a job after being unemployed in the previous quarter. We're now joined by Malerato Mosiane, Chief Director of Labour Statistics at Stats SA. Thank you so much for being with us. So it says it suggests it's harder for women. Do we get any insight into why that could be?
Yes, good evening to the viewers. What we have found is that women struggle to get jobs in the South African labour market, mainly as a result of not having the necessary skills that are required in the labour market. And they also don't have the qualifications that are required.
All right, and why are men given a leg up, as it were? They don't always have the skills either, but I guess there's that physical element to some of the work that men can get involved in.
I wouldn't know, but what we have seen from the figures is that if you look at the occupations that men mainly occupy, you find that they're mainly in managerial positions where only 32% of people who are in managerial positions are women. And you find women only dominating the elementary occupations, such as being in clerical occupations or being domestic workers. And also you find most of the women working in the health care occupations as working as nurses.
This data is for 2020. So what role did COVID-19 play in all of this, if any?
COVID-19 affected a lot of issues in the South African labour market. We saw in the first quarter or second quarter of 2020 that it was difficult for anyone, irrespective of sex, to go out and look for employment. So the unemployment rate was low, but it was not indicative of the fact that people were finding work. And we also found that a lot of people lost jobs during this period.
All right, so we don't know what the situation is in terms of women versus men more recently.
We do have the latest figures for the first quarter of 2022, where the picture has not really changed. We still see about 43% of those who are in employment being women, which means the bulk are still men. And even if when you look at the unemployment rate among men is around 33% compared to 36% among women.
Education always plays a role. We've been looking at these figures for a long time with Stats SA. So you are less likely to be unemployed when you have more education. Do you get insight into what sort of education is preferred and what sort of skills are preferred if women want to change their situation?
We don't have that kind of information, but what we have is an indication that if you have a tertiary qualification, especially a university degree, you stand a better chance of getting a job in the labour market. But in terms of which positions, I wouldn't know. But we have also seen that if you have been unemployed for a period of a year or longer, you struggle to get into a job.
The mysterious skills gap. Ms. Mosiane, finally, do you agree with me that South Africa is potentially sitting on a huge problem here? Could many of these women who lost their jobs in the fourth quarter, or in fact who weren't able to regain a job, were domestic workers? And we know that COVID-19 saw many domestic workers being laid off. When people have financial issues, that's where they cut back. But so many women in South Africa are reliant on domestic work to feed many members of their families. This is a problem.
Yes, indeed. It only makes sense if I have a domestic worker and I lose my job. I will have to let go of my domestic worker. But what we have seen between the fourth quarter and the first quarter, we have seen an improvement in terms of an increase in the number of women who are employed as domestic workers.
Okay, so that's the good news at the moment, but we don't know how people will react given the price pressures they're facing right now.
Yes, we wouldn't know, but we are publishing the results of the quarterly labor force survey for the second quarter on Tuesday, so we'll see how the situation changes, whether it's improving or it's deteriorating.
All right, just another indicator showing that women in South Africa are really vulnerable in many respects, including work and their work situations. That was Malerato Mosiane, Chief Director of Labour Statistics at Stats SA.